So in this lesson, we're going to use the graphing calculator to make a box and whisker plot and actually to find a 5-number summary. So that term is often used in data and statistics when trying to divide data up into equal parts, in this case 4 equal parts called quartiles. And to do that you need to make what's called a 5-number summary. So we're going to do that in this lesson, comparing the price. So we're going to look on this list here, the price of, so here's our price per serving column right here. So we're using this column, and these are the price per serving for the natural peanut butters. So we're going to compare price, and then below these are the regular peanut butter prices. So what we're going to do with these numbers now is actually use our graphing calculator to do a whole bunch of work for us. And I'm going to start with the natural peanut butter prices. And now here's the key. So we're going to do some instructions here with, this is a TI 73. If you have a TI 83 or 83 plus, there are similarities. And you'll see some of the similar buttons. The biggest difference with a TI 83 is this button here, which is called list. And on a TI 83 it's opposite, it's stat. It says stat here and list on top. The yellow lettering above each key is done by using the yellow key, the second key. So anything that's in yellow you activate by using the second key. And again, on a TI 83 it's going to be opposite of what I'm doing. So if you're using a TI 83 at home, some of the things I do will work and some of them you'll have to just actually work opposite directions. So as I turn my calculator on, I actually already have it in what's called list mode. And in TI 73 you actually just push the button that says list and you get this screen. In a TI 83 you'll push that button and then hit enter to get to this screen. And what this allows me to do is to put numbers into these columns here, or lists. And so in list 1 I'm actually going to put the numbers that are in this column here for price. This is the price of the natural peanut butter. So I'm actually going to go ahead and enter those numbers into that column, and just go ahead and so you hit the number and then press enter. There's an enter key at the bottom, and then the next one, 32, and press the enter key in the bottom right. And so you see these numbers are just simply going into the list and trying to make sure I get them all in there. So, and I'm going to check them off as I go. The 27, the 32, the 26, another 26, and then another 26, and then a 21, and then a 32, and then a 27, and then 26. So I'm just entering these numbers in to the list. 32, 21, 24, 26, and 34. And so if I look on my list here, I know that there's 14 of the natural peanut butters, and so I have 14 entries right now in my graphing calculator. So the number 34 is the 14th entry, so I know I have all of those in list 1. And so next I'm going to, since I have all those in there, I'm going to actually push the right arrow key, and it's going to take me over into now list 2, to the top of list 2. And one of the things to be careful about, you don't want to be up in there where that's lit up. You want to be down in the first line where there are dashes. And so there's where I can put my first entry in my calculator. And now I'm going to move down on the sheet to the regular peanut butters. Now there's more of these. There's 23 of them on my list, and so this list is going to be longer, and that's okay. The lists don't have to be the same length, and I can still find out what I need to find. So I'm going to put now these numbers in, starting with the 22. Let's see if I can get all this list visible here. There we go. You can see it all on my screen. So list 2, I'm going to start with the 22 and enter. Got that one. And then 19, enter. And then 14, enter. So I'm going to go a little quicker now. Hopefully you're getting the hang of putting these numbers into a list. in your calculator. So I just put in the 21, the 22, and then the 12 is going to go next, and 17, and 9, and 16, 17. These are my quality ratings, excuse me, the price per serving for these. So I just put in a 17, I'm going to put in a 16. And if you ever make a mistake, you can actually just delete the number you put in with a delete key or a clear key, depending upon your calculator. So there's my 23, and again, I'm just kind of checking to make sure my list matches what's on the paper. And then 21 is next, and 17, and 14, and 11. Pretty low quality rating there, or price actually. 22, 21. These are prices per serving, cents per serving. 16 cents per serving. So some of these are more expensive than others. And then the 9. And finally the 16, which is the 23rd entry. So my calculator is telling me that in list 2 I have 23 entries is the number 16. Some people get a little confused when you hit return here. There's an empty space and it says 24, but you really only have 23 entries, which is good. And so those are all of my peanut butter quality, price per serving for those two. So now I have them in my two lists, and it looks like list 1 disappeared, but it didn't. It's just that it's shorter than list 2. So if I go up, you'll see eventually I get to where list 1 appears. And there's the 14 entries in the list 1 and list 2. And so now that they are in my graphing calculator, I can use my graphing calculator to do some work for me. Things that would be pretty challenging to do by hand can be done. But one of the things we're asked for is something called a 5-number summary and a box and whisker plot. And we can do both of those at the same time with the graphing calculator. Graphing calculators are built in to graph, and one of the parts of them is what's called a plot. And so you see this yellow letters above the y equals button right here on the calculator. If I push the yellow button and then the y equals button, it's going to give me what are called statistics plots that I can use to make graphs with. So the yellow button and the y equals button gives me the plots. And I'm going to go ahead and hit enter to get into the first plot here. And then right now it's off. The off is the dark part. The flashing is on because it's waiting for me to tell it what to do. So I'm going to hit enter, and so that it actually now is on. And I'm going to use a down arrow to get into the type of graph that I want to do. And the type of graph I want is the very last one in the set. Now if you have a TI-83, you still get to them the same way. You have a few more choices in 83. But the one we want is the one that's called a box and whisker plot. It has dots on the end of it because those are what are called outliers, which we'll get to here shortly. And so in a box and whisker plot, so now I have to hit enter to turn that on. And it says now just below that X list, this is the next part we have to pay attention to. The X list, or the list that we want to use, is list 1, and that's perfect. It's already set up. Plot 1, we'll do a box and whisker plot. Plot 1 is on. It will make a box and whisker plot using list 1, which is where our natural peanut butter prices are. And the mark it will use is this little square mark for that. So that's good. That's set to go. And we can scroll through these and go back through or whatever. And now I'm going to actually go back and hit the yellow button and plot, or the y equals button again, because I want to do a second one of these. So I'm going to actually go down arrow at this point to plot 2. So I'll use the down arrow, get to plot 2. I'm going to turn that one on. So I hit enter again to turn it on. So now it's on instead of off. And use the down arrow and then go over all the way to the last one, box and whisker plots, and hit enter again. So every time you want to turn something on or off, use the enter key. And now this one also says list 1, but that's a problem because I'm already using list 1. I want to change this to list 2. So the way you change it in a TI-73 is by the yellow button and the list button. In a TI-83, I believe it's the opposite. So, but what you're looking for is this menu. So if I push this button and this button, I get all of the lists. So list 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that was by pushing the yellow button and the list button. I get all these lists. And now I want to go down to list number 2. So down arrow, or actually you can push button number 2 the way these have multiple sequences you can do. So I want this to be on list 2, the dark on number 2. And when I hit enter, now you see it changed in my plot 2, the X list is 2. So now in list 2 is going to make a box and whisker plot for this, and the mark is the same, which is fine. This is just the marks and frequency, so none of these others you have to worry about. So I have it on box and whisker, this last one here, and now it's on list 2. And now here's the part that's going to be really helpful, because now I'm going to actually graph it. But the first time you press graph, sometimes lots of weird things appear. In fact, what I know now is that in my graphing calculator there were some other things turned on, and I need to turn them off. So if I just push the Y equals button, I'll see that there plot 1 and plot 2 are on, but this is a graphing calculator and there's some equations in here that I want to get rid of. So I'm going to clear that equation, go down and clear the second equation. So now it won't try and graph those with my box and whisker plots. When I hit graph again, those have gone away, but my graph is still not here because I need to do one more step. I need to zoom. There's a zoom button. I need to zoom. And then number 7 or number 9 on a TI-83 is statistics. I want a statistics plot, so I want to zoom it so I can see the statistics thing. So I go down to number 7 or push the number 7. And when I hit enter, then there they are. So I have 2 box and whisker plots. Now if you remember, list 1 was the price for natural peanut butter, and it's going to put that one on top. And list 2 was the price for regular peanut butter. So now we have what are called box and whisker plots for each of those. Here's a box and whisker plot for the price of natural peanut butters. Here's a box and whisker plot for the price of regular peanut butters. And I'm going to use one more button on this. It's called the trace button. If I hit the trace button, you see that a flashing square appears, and up in the upper left hand corner it says L1, list 1, and down in the bottom left it says MED, which means median. So this is the middle, median. The median is 26. Now in the beginning of this we were talking about finding what's called a 5-number summary. And a 5-number summary is 5 numbers that divide the data into 5 or 4 equal parts. So if I push the left arrow button, it doesn't seem like anything happened, but it did. If you look at down here at Q1, which is quartile 1, is 26. And so if I push it again to the left, you'll see that it says down here in the bottom left, minimum, M-I-N-X, is 21. So the minimum price for the natural peanut butters is 21 cents per serving. And you can actually see that on this chart. If we actually go back to the chart, you will see that the minimum price is 21 cents per serving. There's a couple of them here. That's the lowest price per serving for the regular peanut butters. If I push the right arrow, the first quartile, 26. So what we're doing is dividing the data up into quarters or quartiles. So this first set is 1/4 of the data, from 21 to 26. And then if I push the right arrow again, the second number in my 5-number summary, actually it's the third number now, which is the median, is 26. So if I'm keeping track, and I just want to kind of write this down, the 5-number summary for the price of regular peanut butters, if we go back to the minimum is 5. I'm just going to write them up here at the top of the page. The lower quartile, or the first quartile, the next one, is 26. And the next one, the median, is also 26. Sometimes quartiles and medians can be in the same place. And then the next one, the upper quartile, is 32. It says Q3, quartile 3, like the third quarter of a game. It's 32. And then the last one, the maximum, is 34. And again, if you look on the data set, you'll see that the highest priced one is 34. What this means is the middle of all these, if you line them up by least to greatest, the least would be 5, the most would be 34, the middle would be 26, and then these would be what we call the quartiles or quarters of the data. Now, the natural peanut butter one doesn't show it very well, the quarters, because the lower quartile and the median are at the same place. But now if we look down at the natural peanut butters, and the way we get down to that one is by using the down arrow. So we're going to push the down arrow, and that will take us now into the box and whisker plot for the regular peanut butter prices. And again, we can get the 5-number summary for those peanut butters by doing the same thing. So now it's telling me the maximum is 23, so that's the highest price. And again, if you look on the data set, you could see that the highest priced regular peanut butters is 23 cents. And so that's 23 right there. And then if you go left arrow 1, the upper quartile is 21. So we're going to work backwards on this one across the box and whisker plot. And then the left arrow again, the median is 17. That's the middle of the data set. If you put all these numbers in order from least to greatest, the middle number would be 17. And then the lower quartile is 14. That's called Q1. And then the minimum is 9, the lowest price. And again, you can look on the data set and you can see that 9 cents is the lowest price per serving. So 9 is the lowest, 23 is the highest. And then these numbers then tell us where the middle is. So you can think of it this way. This is the middle, called the median. This is the middle of the upper half, and this is the middle of the lower half. So in other words, we've cut it into quarters. Q1, the middle, like halftime. Q3, it's called sometimes, the middle of the upper half. And then the maximum and minimum numbers. And the box and whisker plot that we made on our chart shows those. The minimum, the lower quartile, the median, the upper quartile, and the maximum in a box and whisker plot, which gives us a 5-number summary. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This one shows it very clearly. This one you have to understand and be able to see that the lower quartile and the median happen to be the same place in the data set. And there's some other things we can do with the lists. If we went back to the lists, we could actually put these lists in order and see that and count them using your graphing calculator, which we'll see in another lesson later on. But that's how you use your graphing calculator to take lists and then turn them into box and whisker plots and then find 5-number summaries. Very important buttons along the top here. Remember, the plot button allows you to plot these. The trace button allows you to trace where you're at on these. You need the arrow keys to move around. And the zoom button helps you to get the right window in order to see the statistics plot correctly. And so box and whisker plots, 5-number summaries, very important, very useful. Going to be doing a lot of those in Samples and Populations book.